106 is the number that we're hearing. Unfortunately, we're hearing that there were between 4 and 5 deaths as well. We're trying to, link up with our man, Michael Oshoma in Yobe, and so we'll bring him on. But the first thing is that the Dapchi girls have indeed been released by Boko Haram. That's what we're reading. So that's the news for you right there. When we get Michael Oshoma, we'll hear exactly how the release happened this morning. And it's going to be, I imagine, on our station right through the day on the news programs. But as soon as we can get Michael Oshoma, we want to start with that as much as possible. Then the other thing that we wanted to look at is the whole matter of Lagos State and the land use, charge and all of those kind of things. There seems to be some controversy over it. Why is there this controversy? What exactly is going on? But as I'm speaking, we got Michael. So back to the Dapchi girls. Morning, Michael.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you very much for linking up with us. Now, Michael, 106 girls have been released. Is that the accurate fact?
Yes, that is the cherry news we got from Dapchi this morning. Presently, as I'm speaking with you, I'm still in Dapchi, trying to get more reports on it. Right now, the students, the released students are in the hospital. They're trying to carry out a medical checkup on them to know if some of them have trauma, those of them that have gone through traumatic experience, to ascertain the level of damage done on them.
Who were they released to? Do you have any details? How were they released?
Good. They were not released to anybody. They just came and drove into the town and dropped the girls at the center of the town, in front of the police station in Dapchi community. I came to Dapchi early in the morning by 7:30 for different purpose, only to got the news that Boko Haram are going to come into the town to release these girls to the community.
I see. Michael, well, what you've just said, they came to the center of town, dropped the girls in front of a police station, and then made their getaway. That part of it is a bit interesting to me. The police, the police, they just dropped in front of the police station and made their getaway. Nobody interrupted them. Nobody intercepted them.
So, at the time they drove into the town was calm. Everybody ran into their houses.
I see.
We were at the entrance of the Dapchi community because we were banned by military not to enter the town to cover anything. We never knew it's because of this purpose.
I see.
But later on, we discovered that the military, everybody withdrew from the community. This Boko Haram drove into the town and dropped these girls at the center of the town.
Okay.
Then everybody, the parents came and they started picking their children one after the other.
Wow. Now we're saying Boko Haram, but for a long while in the news we were saying, Boko Haram had not stepped forward. Now it is confirmed that the people who released these girls are Boko Haram.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
We haven't been able to confirm till now that...
No, I didn't get it.
We haven't been able to confirm till now that you are speaking that it was Boko Haram that abducted the girls. Now we are confirmed that Boko Haram indeed did the deed, right?
That Boko Haram brought them back?
We now know that they were in the hands of Boko Haram. So it is Boko Haram, and Boko Haram released them.
The network, I can't get it clearly.
Okay, what do you hear about 4 or 5 reported deaths?
What did I hear?
That 4 or 5 of the girls died.
Yeah, 5 of the adopted girls were told by one of the rescued girls. 5 of them died due to hardship and traumatic experience they passed through in the bush. We were also told that one of them was held back by the militants due to religious ground. We don't really have more details on that, but we're told she's a Christian and she was held behind for reasons best known to the captain. the captors.
Okay, with this arrangement, you say the girls were dropped in the center of town in front of a police station. Parents have been coming and picking up their daughters. Are there any more left? Have all of them been accounted for? Have all of them been picked up by their parents or wards or guardians? I beg your pardon.
Two parents right now, they are grieved. In fact, they are crying as I'm speaking with you in that community. They are saying they have not seen their daughter as well. So I begin to wonder if truly 110 are actually missing, and we are having this number of people released, a number of deaths, a number of one in the captive death. I begin to wonder if truly we have 110 missing, because some of the parents are still crying that some of their children are yet to be accounted for.
And there are no girls that have not been picked up by parents or guardians?
They are all here. All parents are coming to pick their children.
Okay.
As we speak right now, some of them are here, but some are saying they have not seen their daughter here as we speak. I'm in front of the hospital where these girls are now.
Okay.
I'm speaking with you.
Okay.
But none of them, they are telling me that they have not seen their daughter.
Wow. So, well, thank you for this. I'm sure details will continue to emerge, but for now, 105 girls released by Boko Haram that were kidnapped in Bauchi, in Dapchi, and 5 reportedly have died. We'll get to the details of all of that later on. Thank you very much. As you've just said, right now as we are speaking, that process is ongoing. Parents are, claiming their daughters. Thank you very much. We'll get back to you later on, Michael. Okay, so there you have it. Cheering news, but then a bit confusing as well, because as our man Michael said, we would have thought that if it is 110, all of them have been accounted for, but there still are more parents that, as he told us, were bemoaning the fact that our daughters are not here. So that begins to cast doubt on the actual number originally released. And the point that Michael couldn't hear because of the network is that now it is confirmed that Boko Haram was behind all of this. For a long time, the news was a bit careful about mentioning who the abductors were. But now we have this. So cheering news there to be fleshed out right through the day. And I don't know, you can call in if you want. If you wanted to maybe make any comment on that, I believe the numbers are on there. But cheering news, kudos. We'll see how all of this was arranged, whether it was arranged, because there were aspects of it where it seems that the authorities, the military, if that is correct, according to Michael, just prevented reporters from going into certain areas. Michael was suggesting that it might well be because this was all known, and so they wanted to leave, if you want, something of an enabling environment, maybe an environment that had been agreed upon. Lord knows. We will get these details later on. But the cheering news is that we got these girls back, but there still is a bit more confusion as to, so how many were they originally? If 106 have been returned, 5 have died, so you look at it, that's looking at 110, 111. But there are still parents saying that my daughter isn't here yet. So what exactly is going on? And then there's that single person. There's that single person, as Stephen said, I beg your pardon, as Michael said, one girl reportedly held back because she is not a Muslim. In fact, she is a Christian. Now, what that is all about, we'll find out as, as we go along in the day. In the meantime, Reverend Dominic has called in. Good morning, Dominic.
Good morning, Yori. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good news, cheering news, right?
Yeah, what a cheering news with a mixed feeling.
Yes, yes.
Every time this happens, what comes into my mind is what kind of a nation do we have? How do we treat our children back and front for reasons you cannot explain? And now they have also introduced that religious dimension to it. If you kidnap kids and you keep the Christians, what do you want to do? To provoke the Christians. But God forbid. We're not the kind of people who fight for God. God fights for himself. If they release these kids and they have kept the Christian one, we pray that God will, one way or other, make that one come back. But that's a cheering news. And that is different from what happened in 2014. But that is not to say that the government of this nation have placed a premium on life. one of the journalists had not to say that the government of Nigeria has placed a premium to his own citizens. One of the journalists I listened early before that called me was saying just 5 alone died. Yori, 5 years dying is as good as a nation is sick and
Yes.
money.
Five is not just. Yes.
Can I hear you?
I said 5 is not just. Even 1 is not just.
Yes. 5 died and 1 did not return. I said, not how many?
Yes, we can hear you.
Is it 5 or 4?
5. 5 according to our reporter.
5 deaths is enough for which to mourn. 5 young girls is enough for which to mourn. But thank God they just came back. Thank God they did not keep it like the one that happened to 2014. Because my heart has been bleeding.
Yes.
I thank the ministry, I thank the government. But we should ask again at what cost.
Indeed.
Thank God they're here.
Yes.
Thank God they're here.
Thank you.
Thank God they're here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Reverend Dominic. And the circumstances under which 5, no less, 5 girls reportedly have died, what's that all about? That, will be unfolding as we go along again. But we felicitate with the parents of the 106 girls, while remembering that our reporter says he can't work it out yet why there are as many parents as they are still wailing that our daughter is not here. That is something that will... in the studio here, I have with me Mr. Adesina Ogunlano. Mr. Adesina Ogunlano is chair of the MBA Ikeja branch, here for a different subject, and then this broke. But nevertheless, as a Nigerian, all of this, your reaction to this cheering news, and at the same time, is cheering but also depressing that 5 girls and 1 Christian are not with us yet.
Thank you. You said it all. And the gentleman who called in also said it all. I would rather call it bittersweet news. I won't call it cheering. And I would like to say that there's still a bit of mystery about governance in this country. If a technically defeated enemy could do so much as to take away captive so many girls and return in broad daylight in a gung-ho style, then we have an issue. That means we are still not in control of the situation. And the fundamental duty and responsibility of government is the security of lives and limbs. And the government has not done so much well enough for somebody to begin to shout hallelujah. I'm not pleased. In one way, one is happy, but I could feel more. Just you are talking, just remember the paradigm the Lord Jesus gave. He said you have 100 sheep and only 1 is missing. You abandon the 99 and pursue the 1 that is missing. If you are the father of the 5 people, how will you feel?
Oh,
I'm not happy.
Exactly. Yakub in Dokwemo, good morning.
Yeah, it's very good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to the guests.
Yes.
I think I quite agree with Reverend Dominic. Reason is that this news is a very good news with a news reaction. But Reverend Dominic points out something that the report is that 5 died, and then 1 of them is head on, and then the remaining of them is as released. That information is the fault of our media, because when our media is giving this kind of nature report, and then they were the one that will take job, they could have used another word of English to qualify that. Because every time if they want to give us this kind of information, whether it is 1, whether it is 4 or 10 or more than, they will say .20, .1.
No.
That word of dot.
No, that was insensitive. That was a bit insensitive. As you're right. You're right, Yakub.
That's why I want to point out, because it is fault of our media. I don't think it is the government that released the information and called the 5 girls that died dot. That is number 1. Number 2, you cannot see why the Mr. President said that he will employ every arsenal that he has in his possession to make sure that these girls are being released. Now, how many days? Almost 20 days. If I don't make a mistake, 5 of these girls have been died. What about if Mr. President choose to go by military alone? What would happen? Because as for see, then when they just catch up with these guys, some people are now saying that, why Mr. President say that he wants to negotiate and all that? And then if we are the mother or the father of those children now, this money now, there will be a very happiest man in the land because their girls have been brought back. Even though those girls that is passed on, the 5 girls, their father, their mother will be in sorrow. But at the same time, we give thanks to God, Almighty Allah, that these girls have been back. And then the government should make sure, underline that statement, make sure that this kind of thing will never happen again. Talk less of being negotiate and pay huge amount of money. That the money that made for infrastructure and the rest for the benefit of the Nigerian citizens, they should make sure that they secure those schools, that those Boko Haram will not come back and just some other get and be negotiated for.
All right.
And God bless you.
Thank you very much. We'll get to hear the details. 106 girls from Dapchi that were abducted earlier have returned. Sad news, 5 reportedly died, and 1 is still being held, according to our correspondent who is in Yobe right now, Michael Oshoma, who spoke to us at the top of the program. As we are speaking now, that process is ongoing, where wards are coming in to, pick up their girls. There are many more parents that are still wailing that where is our daughter? So that will have to be sorted out. We'll know what exactly has happened. So how many girls did we start off with? Was it really 110? And Yakub is calling in from Yobe. Good morning, Yakub.
Good morning, Obinadi.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Thank you very much. I enjoy your program.
Thank you very much.
But I'm not happy with your reporter this morning.
Okay. Which aspect?
The report he gave this morning is wrong. The impression of one of the girls withdraw, the Christian girl withdraw a wrong information.
You and Yobe, were you?
Yobe and the Damascus, and I called his brothers in that tree.
Okay.
Your correspondent speak that I called people in Yobe. I called people in that tree. Confirm.
So what's the information you have?
And the information I got was not what your reporter said was not true. It is not. A girl was going to withdraw at the Christian. There's nothing like that.
I see.
Information, your correspondent should be giving fresh information at times.
Okay, that's not when you say the reporter when you fault the reporter's account, you should be able to give me your account and also.
Those girls are released. None of the girls withdrawn. Either a Christian or a Muslim.
No.
The information from that key. None of them is withdrawn. I never dispute what he said about them. That one is nothing but the truth. But none of the girls was withdrawn, either a Muslim or a Christian.
Okay. None of the girls were held back.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it is.
Okay. So that part of it you take exception to. Thank you very much. It's, as you see, it's breaking. Thank you very much for calling in and laying this concern. I'm sure these matters will be resolved, but the reporter, understandably, is going to want to stand by his story. He would have his sources as well. But thank you very much for calling in. Okay, so as I said, that's something that we're going to be, talking about right through the day. But now back to the business of the day before we had this bittersweet news, happy news in looking at it from one perspective, but also very, very sad that even 1 girl died, not to talk about up to 5, as we are hearing. Now, MBA Ikeja branch, you've been in the news in recent times, and you are the chairman, Mr. Adesina Ogunlana, chairman of MBA Ikeja branch. Now, the protests over the land use charge has been ongoing. Lawyers have actually, from Ikeja branch, have you actually marched yet? Or there's just, it's in your itinerary to march?
Marched.
You've marched.
And we still march.
Yeah, and you still intend to march. Yes. And interestingly, DSS, I was reading, wanted to actually be part of your meeting, but you declined. Tell me about that, DSS coming and wanting to be part of your meeting in MBA Ikeja.
Well, thank you. That's how we saw it. It was like 2 days ago. We had an emergency meeting scheduled to discuss the aftermath of our protest, matters rising, and we sent messages to our members as usual on our platform. And so the meeting was fixed for 1 p.m. When there are vital issues that will compel us to meet and deliberate before the monthly meeting, we hold such meetings. And the DSS operative came, a lady. It was not a team, as been widely reported, came and...
just a lady, just a single officer.
Just came over and sought audience with me and said they are interested. They've heard about the news, about the meeting, and they want to know what we are going to discuss and what I, in particular, will have to say. So well, there are 2 or 3 other tigers. When I say tiger, members, MBA Ikeja has the cognomen in the MBA as the Tiger Bar. The tigers were with me, and we just smiled at the lady and said, well, you want to be part of the meeting? He said, yes, because they just want to know, as a security agency. And so we wouldn't know whether it was a naivety that is natural or a naivety that it was contrived. And what's amusing to us, and we said, well, first of all, are you a legal practitioner? He said, no. Are you a member of my branch? He said, no. We are not going to attend this meeting, except you do so clandestinely, without my knowledge, without my authority. But I should not like to see you around here. And she left.
Okay, and so that was that. So there was no invasion, as was reported. Just a single officer made the request. The request was declined. She left peacefully.
Yes, she
end
complied.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, end of that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, but the whole subject matter is that MBA Ikeja is spearheading the protest of this. Protesting against the land use charge, it's too high, you say. Government has addressed this, they've adjusted it. You say, it must be cancelled. We don't want an adjustment, it must be cancelled. Figures that are banding about, we spoke with the Information Commissioner who has explained that a lot of those figures that look humongous are actually arrears. They're not a yearly, charge, for example. So there's a lot of disinformation going on as well. You are aware of all of these aspects of the story?
I am aware, and I do not believe the side of the government, understandably so. And when people mention 400%, actually some as high as 10,000%, and we have proofs of that.
Yes.
And we started.
But they are saying these are long arrears.
No,
that's outstanding arrears.
First, that's a fib. To use a very small word, English word. That's a fib. It's a fallacy. A person who has, for example, who paid last year 135,000, and I'm talking for a fact of what I know from my branch, and you now give the person 2 million naira bill, and the fellow now approaches and says, gentlemen, what's the basis? You are valuing my property for 350 million or so, go and buy it. Now, what percentage? And of course, lawyers be paying their dues up to 135,000 naira. How many of it can you get out of 2 million? When you times it by 10, it's 1,350,000, still an excess of balance of 650,000 naira. That does not wash. What about the school that was giving this stupendous amount of 5.7 million naira for borehole tax? Even the tax of a levy of 68,000 naira. It's from where do you get that? You want to levy water rates when you are not supplying water.
So
what Mr. Bank-Beton had said, he must have to say something. He must have to say something. The reality of the fact is that there are a whole lot of fraud, a lot of fraud in their calculation. If you want me to go into it, I will tell you.
Well, that's a very, very strong word because government doesn't go around defrauding people. So you might not agree with their calculations, but that's one thing.
What's been a fraud? I think you talk straight here. What's been a fraud? I use it with all sense of responsibility.
Because
when I say fraud, for example, what do you say the basis of all this conflict is actually the mathematics of evaluation and then the percentages you put there to each. How do you arrive at that valuation? That's the truth. How do you value? How do you value?
I imagine that they will value professionally.
Where?
They have professional valuers.
How? Can you value in absentia? As MK Abiola taught us, can you shave my head behind my back? Do you do that? You are a citizen of Nigeria, a resident of Lagos, maybe you are a Lagosian yourself. You mean somebody comes to your house and somebody just puts a bill, assuming the person even wants to buy. How do you assess, how do you value? I'm challenging the Lagos. When I say fraud, I mean what I'm saying. And the reason for this, our own, as a professional body, as lawyers, most people are even thinking that our main grasp is economics. No, no, it's the arbitrariness.
Okay, you're calling it arbitrary, and that's why we invited you, because we wanted to find out what exactly the issue is or was. This is not something that, if you want, this Ambode administration has initiated. It's a law that's been on the books. It went through the whole process, gamut of, the processes for a bill to become a law. First reading, second reading, public hearing, and all of that. So there's nothing really in the closet on all of this matter. Why, therefore, are you now giving the impression that come and see an oppressive new policy?
You are misunderstanding a lot of things. You are speaking as if you believe hook, line, and sinker the position of government. And that's why you are talking about the formalism, first reading, second reading. First reading, second reading, where the parliament, I told H.O.B. Agunbiade, the majority leader, when I led the protest and the speaker could not come out and he sent the majority and other people to come and address him, I said, this is your parliament, it's a public reading. Public reading, this is your parliament, can it take 1,000 people? Public reading. What do you mean? Something as radical, something as encompassing, so comprehensive like that. When you are going about doing what you call tent meeting, when you go about doing, why do you say public reading? Is that what you mean? You want to radicalize, you want a phenomenal increment in the range of Lagos, and you are saying, oh, second reading, first reading, and they said that the
because that's the way you make laws.
Just a
That's
minute.
the way laws are made.
Oh, okay, I see.
There's a set down, there's a process.
I see.
You know this better than most people because you're a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm telling you. If to you what they have done is enough adequate consultation, what if they have done is enough adequate consultation, they should go ahead and try to implement that law.
And let me ask you this question. Everybody's concerned. This affects everybody because everybody must live in a house somewhere. And this affects you because these charges involve either owner-occupied house or one for rent or where the landlord and the tenant live together. So everybody is concerned one way or the other. Which one is your own? MBA Ikeja. By which I mean, if it were the Association of Estate Valuers or Realtors or something like that, people have said that. How would you respond to that question as a body of lawyers are coming in on this matter?
Thank you so much. William Shakwara, the first Nigerian to be called to the bar of the Supreme Court in 1888 said, and I quote, "The lawyer lives for the direction of his people and the advancement of his society." How do you mean? What audacity of conceit make you to ask me, what is our own? What is our own? Nigerian Bar Association in Ikeja, what is our own? When there was a military clash in the east with the IPOB, what is our own? MBA Ikeja intervened. We held press conferences. What is our own? When there was Fulani herdsmen killing and the government of Major General Buhari was appearing comatose, what's our own? We spoke out truth to power. How do you mean? We live for the direction of our people. You mean we should fold our arms and say, well, I'm not an estate valuer? Well, how do you mean? If you genuinely meant what you said, I'm not happy. But if you're just talking like the government, well, it's understandable. And I beg to observe that when you said that it affects everybody, no, it does not affect Mr. Akim Ambode. It does not affect Mr. Obasa. They are out.
You're making this personal now.
What do you mean personal? That's, I'm talking about government. When I say
No,
government.
no. Those are individuals you mentioned.
Gentlemen, except we deceive ourselves. When you say MBA Ikeja is here. You may wish to begin to extrapolate and say, oh, you're personal. It's not. When I say Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, that's the governor of Lagos State. When I mention the Speaker of Obasa, that is the head of the parliament. Sometimes the whole can be reduced to a single unit. The single unit can represent the whole. This is logic, and it's understandable to normal human cognition.
Okay.
And I'm talking for a fact that those class of people, they are out of sync with the reality of the circumstances of the financial poverty of our people. And that's why they could afford to come and bring out that kind of a legislation, and for several days and weeks trying to defend it until it becomes clear that the bucket is leaking water. They will change it. They've said they've reduced. It's a sham. And I'll prove that it's a sham.
Okay, I've got to take a break then, and then come and give me your perspective on how the government is not being honest, because I imagine when you say sham,
it's a sham.
You know, that's what we're talking about.
It's a sham.
And what you want, bottom line, MBA Ikeja is saying the law must be abrogated. I wanted to be sure what exactly.
Of course, that was, I will react to it. Are you asking me now? Want me to respond?
No, I just wanted to be sure that
very well.
No compromise. You are saying this law must be cancelled.
Yeah, that law is illegal. It's unconstitutional.
Okay, we'll go on a break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back, and we'll take your calls as well. Welcome back, and it's on a day that we woke up to hear that 106 of our girls that were abducted in Dapchi have actually returned. And also, it's a bittersweet story in the sense that the bitter part of it is that we're hearing reports that 5 girls actually died as well. Details of that will be unfolding. Now, back to our subject today. Mr. Adesina Ogunlana, chair of MBA Ikeja branch, is our guest. And his association has had a running battle, if that is the way to put it, with Lagos State officials, Treasury, finance officials, because of, charges. This is what you people in the Ikeja branch call oppressive taxes.
No, we call it GAT.
You call it?
GAT. GAT. That's an acronym. Governor Ambode's toxic taxes.
So you've personalized this thing against the person of Governor Ambode.
If you like to put it that way. If you like to say Sani Ade is also a wonderful musician, is this the only one to understand? That's the leader of government. That's the leader of the branch. Governor Ambode's toxic taxes.
Okay.
That.
Okay. But, well, Mr. Kehinde Bamgbeta is the Information and Strategy Commissioner in Lagos State, and he knows all there is to know about this whole matter. He's the person who's been explaining misconceptions that MBA Ikeja has put in the minds of the public, and he's been trying to see what he can do to at least put the facts right next to yours. We spoke with Mr. Bamgbeta just before the program, and we agreed that he would call into the program. So I imagine my producers are still trying to get him as we speak now, because we'd like to hear his perspective, if there's anything wrong here. Because, well, the gentleman, our guest, has accused me of spinning government's perspective, whatever that means. But hey, it's just the news, it's the information out there. And so we need to hear it from Mr. Bamgbeta, who is a spokesman indeed for the government. Now, with your stance, I imagine it's on behalf of the people, because you also had printed up a leaflet referring to, these initiatives as oppressive taxes and all of that. I imagine you're going to be under a bit of pressure. Tell me about that, if any, in working, living in Lagos, protesting in Lagos. DSS wants to come into your meeting, knows, madam, you can't come into our meeting. Tell me the pressures you might be facing.
Well, there have been pressures, but bearable pressures by the grace of God.
Okay.
Before the protest, I think the foremost monarchy in Lagos State, that's the stool of the Olowo Eko.
Oh, Olowo Eko.
Yes.
Oba Akiolu.
Yes, Palace called us and wanted to have a meeting with us. I do not have the mind to attend that meeting because I asked for the purpose of the meeting. I'm just a nobody, and suddenly I now received a call and invitations, and I asked, why should I come over? Just like David said, who am I about a poor dog, a flea, that the king should be interested in? And they gave no reason. I don't attend such a meeting.
Are you fearful for your safety?
For my safety? No.
No.
I'm not fearful for my safety.
So it's not as bad as that?
No, it's not as bad as that.
Okay.
It's not as bad as that. And we have the interaction with our colleagues, the learned Attorney General of the state, Adeniji Kazeem, okay. And we spoke fairly at length on phone, and he was asking us to drop the idea of a protest and come for a dialogue. Okay. And I replied, the gentleman, friend, and colleague, that you did legislation without consultation. Let me do my protest first, and I'll come and do dialogue with you.
Well, it's not your protest.
When I say your,
it's our protest. That is, you would be saying our.
Let me do my protest. I'm relating to you what I discussed with Adeniji Kazeem, yes. Honorable Attorney General. Yes. He understood what I meant in the concept. Your, when I say mine, your, you know, Zembi Ikeja, okay. The Tiger.
Because I highlighted that because you have been aiming at individual, officers.
That's your understanding of my perception. I've told you that it's quite convenient and comfortable to me to refer to an institution by its leadership, okay. And vice versa. Okay. So right. There's no big deal about that. Cool. And then later I just spoke with the gentleman. I called and said, okay, we could have a compromise. Mm-hmm.
What's that compromise?
The compromise is that let the government announce the suspension of the application of that law. I didn't say repeal now. I didn't say abrogate. Just announce the suspension of the application. And they said that government does not work that way and it could not have that capacity and all that. So I was now illustrating to him and say, well, I think there's a law about smoking in public places. There's a law about not spraying Nara nose. By the way, how many people have been arrested and prosecuted. Okay. And then later we have meetings with the Commissioner of Police, that's Edgar Moihimi, our very good friend, and then we spoke with him. He too didn't want that protest, but we wanted that protest, and he said, well, he could not stop us, and he would not stop us, and that he could only provide security cover. And we advised that he could even use patrol, the chapter to be monitoring. Okay. We are not gangsters, we are not hooligans, we are not thugs, but we are determined to exercise within the farthest ambits of the law our fundamental right of expression, of movement, of conscience, of thought. Okay.
Mr. George, thank you very much for holding on all this while. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Uncle Yori, personally, I don't care at what cost those girls were retrieved. No matter how much the government may have spent to retrieve those girls, it's not up to what one or two senators take away from our courts in a month. That is that. The logistics, you know what it takes for the insurgents to take those guys by force, what they must have gone through on the road, the shootings and all that. So there is a possibility that death could occur. I don't think they killed them deliberately. Okay. We need to wait for details before we start condemning government for every little thing that, without reason. Secondly, Uncle Yori, the gentleman before you, I'm concerned at his disposition and mannerism as a lawyer. The government of Lagos State, is he saying that the government has no right to administer the state, increase or decrease charges? The way he's talking is making it to look that the government of Lagos State is subject to the whims and caprices of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos branch or
Ikeja branch.
This country today is bedeviled by corruption. The lawyers, the senior advocates of Nigeria are the ones behind all the corrupt people in this country. Why is the Ikeja branch of NBA not saying anything about all those? And he's taking it so personal. Look at the language he's using against the governor of Lagos State. I am so disappointed that the man who is leading a body of lawyers is talking like this.
Okay. Okay.
Good morning.
All right. Good morning. Thank you very much.
I'm waiting for your question.
Would you have any reaction to that submission?
Why not? First of all, he's perfectly entitled to his opinion. Perfectly entitled. He has his right of expression. He said he's disappointed merely in a body of lawyers. He's in fact disappointed with lawyers. We've not done what we are supposed to do and all that.
He didn't go as far as that.
Just he said that, no, he said so. He said that senior advocates of Nigeria defending corruption, as MBA Keja did anything about that, he has that. That is his perception. He complained about my language against the governor, Akim Ambode. I've not abused him. I've spoken as a Republican. The governor and the government is the servant of the people. And the position of my branch against this land use charge and against all other atrocious, toxic taxes is I understand that this government does not understand, appreciate the rubrics or the dynamics of democracy. Democracy is all about the people's power. It's only in Africa you begin to address governors and presidents as His Excellency. Yes, just a minute, sir. Just a minute. You asked me for my reaction. You asked me for a reaction. In Africa, we still understand modern democracy from the perspective of Ijoba, from monarchy, from reality. It's Mr. Akim Ambode. That's how he even addressed himself. What is excellent about our governor? What is excellent about our president? We voted for them. We that voted for them as their master, we are not excellent.
Okay.
So as a Republican, and he's saying that, are we saying that the government cannot administer the state? The government can administer the state, but not to kill the people, and cannot administer to their whims and caprices. And your understanding of law must go beyond legalism. It must be Benthamistic, the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Okay, fine. Now, let me just say that what you have to agree that you've been editorializing all along, and that this kind of an attitude might throw a spanner in the wheels of compromise. You're referring to taxes with the editorializing word of toxic.
Yes.
And lawyers generally just put the facts. Don't editorialize on top of it.
You are the one telling me your perception.
Yes.
And you are just
because you are calling it toxic.
Yes.
You know.
You should ask me as a journalist. What do you mean by toxic?
Now I know what toxic is.
Exactly.
I know what toxic is.
Now, what else do you want me to describe a tax that is oppressive? A tax that is excessive? I've just given you an example of 140,000 to 2 million naira. I've given you an example of a school giving borehole tax of 5.7 million. I've given you water rate levy of 68,000. You are not providing water for me, and I dug a borehole, so I will have to pay 68,000 naira. You want to levy water rate when you are not providing water, and I use the word toxic.
For example,
yes.
just toxic, but
other
words that show
it's oppressive, it's excessive, and I've used
oppressive, excessive,
yes,
toxic.
It
so
is.
all of these, they're your right to use,
yes.
but they do begin to make you look a bit belligerent, and people will now say, is this gentleman presenting a case emotionally or factually?
Now the problem with people is this: they want you to do things their own way. And if you insist your own way, they will ask, is it legal to say so? They will say, it's not done my way. Well, just a minute, just like some churches, you can't compare a Celestial church, the mode of worship there, with the Catholic Church.
Okay.
But you can't begin to say that, oh, Catholic Church is so elevated, the Celestial Church is a matter of style.
All right.
The fact is that, are these taxes proper? Is the law legal and constitutional?
You know, everything depends on how a case is presented. You present cases for a living, so you would know this better than most. Everything depends on how cases are presented.
It may not go down well with you. It has gone down. My presentation has gone down well with vast majority of Lagosians. We were on the roads.
So be it. Let me hear Bisola from the UK. Bisola in the UK, good morning. Thank you for holding on.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hello, sir. Oh, thank you. Although I'm in London, but I live at Ajah. I have a house in Nigeria as well. Good morning, sir. I can see you.
Okay.
That money they're asking for, the levy, sir, I will personally not take a penny, even if the government takes the last drop of my blood. I live in UK for over 30 years. We have council tax as well that we pay. But all amenities are there. They provide everything. There is no water pipe laid all over Ajah, suffering from supplying us water. You are asking for all this money. No security. It's only the main road they did. We personally did the road that leads to our houses. Security we paid personally. There's nothing the government, the clearing of the refuge, refuge collection, we pay for it personally. So what exactly does the government of Lagos do for us to pay that levy? What?
Bisola, she's off. Oh, I didn't want to interrupt her, having delayed her, but I was going to ask if she was up to date on her payments. You know, I don't know how she would have answered, because government is saying that Mr. Bamigbeton, the Commissioner for Information, has said that these figures that are being bandied are not a true reflection of actuality, that people are lumping together long-standing arrears, and so it is now looking horrible. Now, that's what government has said. Mr. Bamigbeton, we're still trying to get him, because he did agree that he would call into the program, or he would pick up our call when we made the call. And so far, the report I'm getting is that, well, the line isn't being picked. So I don't know, something must have happened. Maybe he has had to go on to some official assignment or whatever. You've got people in government, they sometimes have to move at a moment's notice. But we've not been able to get him, even though he did assure us that he would call into the program, Mr. Kehinde Bamigbeton. So now, to go back to the whole matter, you said that as far as you know, those that are your, there's a substantial part of your audience that have no issue with how it is being presented. But it does seem that your right to have this Republican stance is one thing, but government still has to carry on with its business. Government has to do what it was elected for. And to the best of our knowledge, they're open to discussion. But whether this is discussion is the part that you have insisted on your right. Whether this is discussion where you're slamming everything they are doing as anti-people, I don't know how you want to encourage them to review the situation.
No, Judge, thank you so much. You see, again, you are expressing positions that reflect what I would say an interesting perspective of the understanding of democracy. Is it a democracy? If it's a democracy, is it a government of the people, by the people, for the people? I am the chairman of NBA Ikeja. I'm their servant. In fact, sometimes when people come to the office and get me upset, I say, well, if you had come to my private chambers, I may walk you out. But if you've come to the office of the NBA chairman to do this, I will leave the office for you because you put me here. The impression you are giving is that some people, their hubris is affected, their ego is affected, and they are thinking, how can citizens, how can these people talk back to us? How could they challenge us? That's the way you are painting it. But when you are a Democrat and you understand, you now begin to bring the political perspective, understanding of Pauline injunction. When it was exhortation, he said it's in God that we move, we live, and we have our being. Okay. That's what a politician will say. Okay. It is in people that we move, that we live, and have our relevance, and not have a monopoly of wisdom. We are Solomon, you people are not too bright, and we know what is good for you. We are the uncles, we are benevolent, and we want the best for you.
You're not impressed.
But the people say no, we're not. No, that is a very wrong attitude.
Okay.
Once you're a Democrat, you don't do that.
Okay. Mr. Opara in VI, good morning, sir. Okay, we've moved over to Abia State. Mr. Okorafor, Mazi Okorafor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Honestly speaking, you see, when you talk about democracy, the dividend is the populace that deserves the dividend. Now, when the populace don't get the dividend, there's no democracy. Now, in as much as people are still complaining, it's like I was expecting the government to bring that price at least 10% of what they discussed in the state assembly and the governor's executive council. Because anything we do, and the masses that voted the government, they are not believing, there is no democracy. Because we have to, people are suffering. In as much as people, at least I saw one lady was complaining in one of their TV programs that they spent 2 million to bring water. At the end of the day, they still come back again. The government says they are going to come and pay. This is a problem to them. So I'm just clear to the government, please, let them bring any price at all levels to 10%. Thank you very much. At least for our guests that are go back, please, I pray to all Nigerians to pray presently for our guests. This is election period. Thank you for prayer. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you very much. This is the case. You are speaking for people who will be affected by this law, and you say it's not everybody that's affected, and then you personalized it by going to the governor. That's he is not affected. I don't know what you mean, because he's not above the law. He's still under the law, like all of us. So when you said that...
You've gone back to that whole issue. I've explained to you. I'm saying that from experience, the entire political class, the ruling class, the politician, they are out of sync with the reality of the financial situation of our people. Look, Yoruba people say, Ajato you, I didn't tell you, okay, sure. The welfare dog and the impoverished dog, they can hardly be playmates. That's the truth. And somebody has referred to the allowances and all that. And hardly do you see, at least in the Nigerian experience, except in the First Republic, when you have people like Aminu Kano, Tafawa Balewa and all that, when you say, they are still just like we were before they got to government. Now, when you are in government, you are rich and you can afford. You remember it is in this state that one former governor too, Mr. Fashola, increased the school fees of LASU from 250 to 50,000. The same purpose. Why? I want to turn LASU into a world-class university. Governor Bode want to turn Lagos into a mega smart city. You want to create paradise is good. You create paradise for who?
Okay.
For dead people?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Adesina Ogunlana, Chair, MBA Ikeja Branch. Mr. Kehinde Bamigbetan was to be on the program via phone. He either changed his mind or had to go on to something else. One or the other happened. And thank you very much for coming. And also, just to end up with the fact that 106 abducted Dapchi girls have been returned, and details.
Well, I just want to say that thank you for the opportunity. My branch is not anti-government. My branch in our letter to them appreciated the work they do, and we said, well, be sensitive and don't be like Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. It's that letter. It was Rehoboam after the glorious era, so-called glorious era of Solomon, when they said gold was like sawdust. But immediately he died. It showed that apparently people are grown under very cruel taxes. And they were, just a minute, sir.
I am hearing that you yourself paid only 5,000 naira. You paid 5,000 naira.
I'm not going to answer that.
You paid 5,000 naira.
Excuse me, please.
For your own charge.
As whether you for my child? What do you mean?
Charge.
Which charge? What charge have I been charged with? Is it my property? Who said that? By the way, let me finish what I'm saying. I said Rehoboam was approached by the people, and they said, in your father's time, the levies were heavy, reduced so. The elders counsel Rehoboam, say...
Is the land use charge?
I'm still saying...
5,000 naira is what you paid.
No, I was not charged 5,000 naira. And I want to tell you something. I will say this clearly. When I came to this place, I put up an artist which I explained to your uncle fellow, that is Leka Musa, and I said, I'm not walking to an ambush. You came here and you're asking me that I... Is that what Bamigbetan told you? That I pay 5,000 naira? This is not really professional of you.
No,
that is not right.
It is not correct.
It's not correct. I was never charged 5,000 naira land use charge and didn't pay 5,000 naira charge, and that is wrong.
So it's disinformation.
And it is disinformation, and I want to tell you, it is not professional. I'm beyond blackmail. The NBA Ikeja is beyond blackmail. Let the government listen to the people and do the right thing.
You yourself personally are not in areas of the land use of your land use.
Yes, at all.
You're not.
Yes.
And you are not happy with the information. Let us call it rumor that you paid only 5,000 yourself.
Yes.
You're not happy with that.
It is not even true.
It is not true. Okay. Thank you very much,
5,000 for land use charge. Is that responsible? Is that possible? Is that true?
Thank you very much.
How could you say that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Adesina. Mr. Adesina Ogunlana, MDA Ikeja branch.
I'm not thanking you. I'm thanking Nigerians.
Okay, then. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.